Hello friends, it's me, and today, who's been messing with everything? It's been Agatha all along. Let's check out Style Theory. When did we just get so hot? From the Style Theorists, together, let's go. Let's start. Who's been pulling all those evil strings? It's been Agatha all along.
Witches have had a major glow up, but how did they go from this to this
I'll get you, my pretty.
to this?
And I killed Sparky too.
Was it magic or something more sinister? Get your protection spell ready because the answer will leave you shaking in your pointed toe boots. Hello,
Style
Internet! Welcome to Style Theory, the show that doesn't need a crystal ball to see that you are about to click that subscribe button. It is
Hello Internet, welcome to Style Theory.
officially spooky season, and
Hi.
that means
That's right,
one thing.
that's right, that's right.
Witches are everywhere. Hocus Pocus, Wicked, and of course, Marvel's Agatha All Along on Disney+.
Well, bad news?
Down the witch's road.
And down the road they go. No, not that road. The road of iconic witch fashion. And it got me thinking. Witch aesthetics have come a long way over the years. We all have ideas of what the stereotypical witch looks like, but how did this image of a wicked witch actually come to be so iconic? And why do modern witches look so different? To find out how witches went from hated to haute couture, we need to take our own journey down the witch's road. Get it? Theorist, witches, listen, if you don't like it, you can blame Disney for that because they did it first.
Go Twitches! Twitches! I've been thinking about that all day! Twin witches!
Pure genius. So
Oh, come on. I actually thought like Twitch streamers, are they broadcasters?
gather ye cauldron and ready thine broom, because our journey will be filled with heroes, villains, and a future most unexpected. When you think of iconic witch looks, there is one wickedly stylish woman that stands out among the rest. The lady in green herself, the Wicked Witch of Oz. Before she was called Elphaba, sang songs, and got fashion tips from her BFF Glinda, she was the epitome of terrifying evil.
How about a little fire?
And yeah, we all know what happens after that.
Scarecrow?
The character embodies the classic witch aesthetic, the black dress, pointed hat, and of course, the green skin. All things that still linger today, even making their way into shows like Agatha All Along. But what made this look so influential? First, it was the color. Black clothing has always had a connection to counterculture. Punk, goth, emo. It acts as a color of rebellion. But it didn't start that way. During the Roman Empire, black became a symbol of death and mourning. They would wear a garment called the toga pulla, which was made of dense, very dark wool. However, the trend of wearing black to funerals didn't become popularized in the West until 1861, when Queen Victoria also donned the color after the death of her husband, Prince Albert. She continued to wear it until her own death in 1901, about 40 years, which 40 years wearing only black? Ugh, goals. So what does that have to do with our witches? Throughout history, witches were considered to be the harbingers of death. The biggest example of this, of course, is the Salem witch trials. Many of the accused were put on trial for allegedly causing the unexplainable deaths of other townsfolk and farm animals, among other claims. Though it wasn't only women who were persecuted, they were the majority. These witches were usually depicted in the everyday attire of the time, long gowns, usually of a gray, white, or black variety. But the one that persevered was the black, long-sleeved, white-collared dress that embodied the Puritan culture of the time. This dress is the inspiration behind the fashion of Wednesday Addams, the New Age Sabrina, and yes, the Wicked Witch of the West. But the reason it became a staple is likely due to the Quakers. The Quakers were a subset of Protestant Christianity that started in the mid-17th century. However, they were not super popular with the reigning religious power of the time, the Church of England. From the 1650s through the 1800s, Quakers were considered to be a threat to the church and the status quo. You see, Quakers
And if I'm not wrong, during that period of time, in that particular location, it's called the medieval period. Right? Am I wrong? Something like that?
did something that was considered extremely scandalous at the time. They allowed women to act as spiritual leaders and preachers, which made the church clutch their metaphorical pearls. Now, the Quakers were not the trendiest people in ye old world of fashion. While most of the world had moved on to more ornate and colorful gowns, much more akin to those worn by the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus, the Quakers wanted to kick it old school. They wore black and pointed-toed shoes and hats that had fallen out of popular fashion. This made their clothing an easy target for any naysayers, like an author simply known as WP who published a book with the longest title I have ever seen. The History of Witches and Wizards, giving a true account of their trials in England, Scotland, Sweden, France, and New England with their confessions and condemnations. Ooh, that was a mouthful. My lungs.
Wait, trial T-R-Y-A-L-S? Trial? I thought it's I, not Y.
We're not prepared for that. Whew. Anyway, in this book, the witches in question were depicted wearing those Quaker classics, including the black pointed hats and dancing with the devil. And unfortunately for them, it was a very, very popular book. If Book Talk had been around back then, this would have been at the top of everyone's TBR. Its popularity resulted in further persecution of the Quakers, specifically the Quaker women, and it solidified their look as part of the witch wardrobe. By the way, if you want to know more about witch
Okay, do recognize that back in the days, books was not commonly available for commoners, for peasants, for normal civilians. It's only for rich nobles, merchants, royalties, individuals, high-class individuals, elites. So, for the vast majority of people which are commoners, any book is going to be the only source of entertainment, information, joy, enjoyment. You get it. Be it truth or false, be it propaganda or not. Lack of information.
hats specifically, I highly recommend Abby Cox's video on the subject. It is amazing, and so is she. Now, as for the Wicked Witch's green skin, that was a choice made by the studio. The Wizard of Oz was MGM's first Technicolor film, and so they wanted to show off everything it could do, and use as much color as they could fit on screen at every possible second. Since green was already a color historically linked with evil and witchcraft, it was an easy pick for the character. However, there was one more very, regrettable feature to her design. I'll let Glinda take this one.
Only bad witches are ugly.
Yikes, girl. That is not how you would get invited to the next Coven slumber party. Yet, Glinda wasn't alone in thinking like this. And the reason why is key to unlocking how our modern witch aesthetic came to be. Which brings us to our next stop on the Witch's Road, to a place most dark and treacherous.
Okay, but having said that, let's be understanding, shall we? This film was taken place a few decades ago. Different norms, different common sense. And heck, the common sense that you have right now, that I have right now, will be considered backwards a few decades later. Think about it from point of view of our children, of our grandchildren, when they are our age. They will say that, wow, people back in your age, my age, are so backwards. Ugh. So it's important to be understanding, so yeah, sorry.
When you look back at pop culture witches, the OG of all OGs is none other than the evil queen from Disney's Snow White. When it came out in
Which one? Which one? The good one or the
1937, it cemented the image of what a powerful witch should look like. And it wasn't the glamorous, regal queen. It was her other persona, the one simply known as the witch, or less kindly, as the hag. Hag is the shortened version of the Old English word hagtessa, meaning, well, witch. But let's be real, it's not the most flattering name. Before witches could wave their hand or twitch their noses to go from drab to fab, they were considered the bottom of the beauty guru food chain. Now, let me be clear about something. You don't need to wear makeup, be young, or look as flawless as Barbie to be beautiful. In fact, I'd argue that the most beautiful that the evil queen looks in the entire movie is this moment of pure joy. She's glowing! And sure, she's happy for like evil and murderous reasons, but still, this pure aura. Anyway,
we shouldn't be celebrating it. We shouldn't be celebrating it. No, no, no.
this depiction was never meant to be flattering. In fact, it was
Taking joy in, you yourself say that, murder.
meant to be the exact
No,
opposite.
no.
As I mentioned earlier, it's a misconception that people accused of witchcraft throughout history were only women, but records show that they were the majority in many areas of the world and made up an estimated 80% of those put on trial. This was likely due to their perceived susceptibility to temptation. In the Bible, Eve is the one to be convinced to take the apple from the garden. This led many in power, mainly men, to think that women were more likely to be turned to the dark side. And that was before they had abs. Older women especially were thought to be easier for demonic forces to possess. Not only that, but back then, they were more likely to be knowledgeable of things that could be thought of as witchcraft. Though really, they were often just more practiced in things like natural medicines, due to many of them being trained as midwives and caretakers. Even so, this led to many depictions of witches being that of old, unkept women, often in various states of demonetizable state of dress. Yeah, before they were fashion trendsetters, witches were thought to spend a lot more of their time gallivanting in the forest in their birthday suits. However, there are other reasons that this old woman facade played such a big role in witch history. The witch, as we know her today, owes a lot of her lore to the pagans, who were practitioners of nature-centric religions. One key figure in most of these religions was the triple goddess, sometimes referred to as Hecate, who was represented by three people: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. They were said to symbolize the female life cycle from childhood to death. Ah yes, once again, the witch and death go hand in hand. While nowadays when we hear the word crone and take it in a very negative light, it was meant to be a symbol of well-earned wisdom, which is exactly what many witch hunters were afraid of. Nothing more terrifying than a well-learned lady, am I right, fellas? A famous example
Toss a coin to your witcher, oh valley of plenty, oh valley of plenty, whoa. Sorry.
of the crone is the Baba Yaga from Slavic folklore. The Baba Yaga is an imposing figure, usually in the form of an old witch who lives in a hut that runs around on chicken legs. Think Howl's Moving Castle, but a lot more sinister. She was often said to terrorize travelers and sometimes even eat children, much like the witch in the Grimm brothers fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, also usually depicted as an old woman. I mean, heck, the name Baba Yaga even means grandmother witch. All of these depictions, whether warranted or not, were viewed by many as evil or wicked, which, as Glinda said, meant they were destined to be quote-unquote ugly. Yet our modern witches, whether they are good, wicked, or somewhere in between, don't conform to this old school standard. What
Wow, that's not good. AKA they're calling old people equals to ugly. That's not right. There's something called aging gracefully. In this current day and age, we understand that aging is inevitable. Growing old is inevitable. But we can choose to age gracefully, age beautifully, be old but beautiful.
gives? What changed to let the witch take back her face? All aboard, because we are headed to the next stop on the Witch's Road. The 19
I'm not gonna lie when she said, all aboard! The toxic oxygen. I don't know how to play ukulele, so sorry.
1960s were a time of extreme change. The anti-war movement was in full swing, people were embracing new ways of thinking, and women were finally allowed to wear pants. I promise that part is important. The 60s saw the rise of the women's rights movement, and with it, a change in how their lives were portrayed on screen. I Love Lucy, Julia, That Girl, all of them saw women taking a starring role. But for our episode today,
And notice that she mentions in the 60s, that means 1960s, that means the grandparents or some even great-grandparents era for us. And I really genuinely respect those people. Because back then, feminism rights is so different from feminism rights right now. And I 100% support those women's rights back then.
The one that we need to talk about is Samantha Stevens, played by actress Elizabeth Montgomery from a show called Bewitched. Samantha is a witch married to a mortal man, trying to masquerade as a normal housewife. While much of her wardrobe throughout the series fits into that classic 50s and 60s housewife aesthetic, the rest reflects the changing landscape. From the shorter skirts that followed the popular mod fashion of the time, to the casual button-downs and pants, Samantha breaks the stereotype of how witches are meant to dress. And she did it by accident. Bewitched didn't have a huge costume budget. This led to the actors like Montgomery wearing their own clothes during filming. And it changed everything. The curse of the witch stereotype was broken. And in its place came a new wave of witchcore inspiration. The witch boom, if you will. The witch boom took place during the mid-90s to the late 2010s. There was a witch for any and every aesthetic. On TV, Sabrina the Teenage Witch brought with it a wave of girly pop outfits that would look right at home on Y2K TikTok. Her looks took clear inspiration from the pop divas of the time, like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. If you wanted something more casual, you had Willow Rosenberg from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who was always there with her knitted sweaters and large collection of overalls.
Wait, isn't she the girl from the she's the host for the Penn and Teller Fool Us, one of the hosts. She got replaced recently, so but still.
Really like your outfit.
No, you don't.
No, I really don't.
Well, I think you look great. Though, as she leaned more into the magic side of things, her wardrobe evolved into something more bohemian-inspired, embracing flowing peasant skirts and patterned dresses. Charmed followed suit, leaning into the popular 90s trends for the three main sisters. Of course, if what you wanted was the epitome of late 2000s fashion, Disney had a witch of its own, Alex Russo. Check out those layers. You've got your jeans, your skirt to go over your jeans, your two tops, your jacket, your boots, and no less than 5 necklaces. And that's not even talking about the amount of bangles on her wrist. Man,
I'm not gonna lie, she looked so young back then.
Disney really said, let's just throw the whole closet on her, huh? But it wasn't just the small screen getting in on the witchy action. Practical Magic, starring Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman, became the embodiment of soft autumn fashion. It had everything. Camisoles, boyfriend-style jeans, endless floral prints, and the crushed green velvet baby doll dress of my dreams. Sorry, green velvet is just my kryptonite, okay? Practical Magic created a fashion legacy that still resurfaces on social media every fall. Maybe it's the algorithm, maybe it's legacy. Of course, when you're talking about the witch boom, you know we have to talk about the movie that spawned a million goths. The one that arguably single-handedly caused the rise of the most popular version of witchcore this side of the cauldron, The Craft. While the movie, released in 1996, is filled with memorable fashion moments, none of them stand out as much as the wardrobe of the movie's antagonist, Nancy. As described by the film's costume designer, Deborah Everton, Nancy was possibly the most damaged character in the film. Her clothes were like armor to her. She would scare—
I'm not gonna lie, you do notice that right now these girls are like 50 plus years old, because when she mentioned 1996, that's like nearly 30 years ago, 28 years ago to be exact, nearly 3 decades ago.
people off. Before The Matrix shoved Keanu Reeves into a shiny black trench coat, Nancy strutted through the halls of her high school in this PVC jacket, paired with items that still look current and trendy today. These pleated skirts paired with pointed toe boots could have walked straight off a 2024 runway. Nancy's style leaned into a mix of 90s grunge and classic goth accents, like the layered rosaries that she wore around her neck. Honestly, if I could steal all the clothes from this movie, I would. And so would you. Don't don't lie, we all know it's true. So, what made these witches not only pillars of pop culture, but fashion influencers? They were reflections of the everyday girl. They dressed like them, talked like them, and had the same life experiences, albeit with a little more magical flair. They were no longer the stereotype meant to tear down the people they represented. Instead,
I mean, to be fair, it's shows, and shows need to monetize to the audience, so the audience will feel relatable. Oh, I look like her, she look like me. Oh, I understand where she's coming from. Money.
they showed them that they could be powerful, and that power didn't make them evil or ugly, Glinda. In fact, it made them unstoppable. But this is not—
Oh, come on! Stop it. It comes from a different day and age. It's literally your grandmother's generations. Don't do that.
not the end of our journey down the Witch's Road. You see, there is one path we haven't walked down. In fact, no one has. Looking at everything that we've learned today, I think we are on the edge of another curve to this winding witch road. And it has to do with the future of witchcore and the so-called modern witch. It's clear that the classic tropes of the Wicked Witch aren't truly dead. But instead of this being a step backwards, I think it's a giant leap towards the future. These stories are embracing the history of the witches that came before them and are reclaiming the iconic symbols as their own source of empowerment.
You're green.
I am.
In Wicked, the pointed hat is used as a way to bring her down, but instead she embraces it as a symbol of her own strength.
Before that, we saw the same thing happen with American Horror Story.
Alright, stop for a while. We all know what happens to Wicked, so... Moving on.
Coven in 2013, which took those classic Wicked stylings and made them contemporary. Suddenly, everyone was donning black boots, wide-brimmed black hats, and monochromatic black ensembles that called back to the Quakers, the Puritans, and yes, the witches of old.
We see something similar with Agatha, where the title character wears a modernized version of a Puritan-inspired ensemble. Except instead of reflecting the very mindful, very demure nature of women at the time, this is the definition of a power suit. The cut of the trench coat highlights her shoulders, giving her a strong and imposing silhouette, while the button-down and trousers feel reminiscent of that bewitched era that started this whole modern witch movement.
To be fair, the show is literally about her. Her name Agatha is literally the title of the show. So, you know, she have got to be a main character. She have to be the power leader.
I think we will definitely be seeing these reimaginings of classic witch fashion bleeding into our everyday wardrobes. Who knows, maybe next time you open Instagram, you'll see someone like Sabrina Carpenter rocking a pointed hat. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep looking sharp. Want to know how Ken became a fashion icon? Click the box on the screen now. And I'll see you next Saturday morning.
Well, thank you so much. I want to take a look at the meme at the back. Sorry.
That's just a—
Goes for nature walk, 5 minutes later, I be the witch of the woods. Bro, that escalated way too quickly. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe. Thank you. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep looking sharp. And I hope to see you all in my next video. Thank you so much. Subscribe. Thank you.